The Wandering Whisker. Eleanor Vance, at 68, often felt the cold, echoing ache of absence in her new home in Portland, Oregon. It had been a little over a year since she'd packed her life into boxes, dismantling decades of carefully built memories, leaving behind her sprawling, familiar house in Des Moines, Iowa. The move had been born out of necessity, a raw, painful, fresh start after her husband, Thomas, passed away unexpectedly, leaving her with a silence that screamed louder than any noise. Her children, scattered across the country like fallen leaves, had urged her to be closer to at least one of them. Her daughter Sarah, in Portland, who had promised quiet support and a new beginning. Eleanor had agreed, reluctantly at first, her heart heavy with grief and the immense weight of change. Then, with a growing sense of cautious, almost fragile anticipation for a new chapter, a new landscape to absorb her sorrow. She'd sold the old house, purged decades of accumulated possessions, the faded photographs, the worn armchairs, the dusty trophies from Thomas's golfing days, driving across the country with only the essentials and the heavy weight of her grief riding beside her in the passenger seat. But even as she slowly, painstakingly settled into her charming new bungalow, with its vibrant, untamed garden and the distant, majestic views of the Oregon mountains, there was a specific, warm, furry void she simply couldn't fill. Lily, her beloved ancient tabby cat, a constant, comforting companion for 15 years. Lily had been more than just a pet. She was a silent confidant, a warm, purring presence on countless cold, lonely nights, a furry shadow that had followed Eleanor from room to room, through every joy and sorrow of her adult life. She was a living, breathing connection to Thomas, to their shared history, to the life they had built together. When Eleanor had been forced to leave Des Moines, facing the daunting prospect of a cross-country move alone, a neighbor, a kind, elderly woman named Mrs. Henderson, had, without hesitation, promised to take Lily. Eleanor had agonized over the decision for days, sleepless nights filled with guilt. She knew the long, stressful journey would be far too much for Lily's fragile old age, her worsening arthritis, her general aversion to anything outside the familiar confines of their home. It had been one of the hardest goodbyes of her entire life, a wrenching, silent farewell, as she buried her face in the warm, familiar fur, inhaling the comforting scent of her old friend one last time. Lily had simply blinked her emerald eyes, seemingly oblivious to the seismic shift occurring in Eleanor's world. A silent, knowing gaze that would haunt Eleanor for months. Eleanor had driven away, not daring to look back, a painful lump in her throat, a tear blurring her vision, reflecting the guilt that gnawed at her. A bitter pill she swallowed every single day in the unfamiliar streets of Portland. She often wondered if Lily understood why she never came back. If the old cat felt abandoned, unloved, the thought was too painful to bear. A year had passed. A full cycle of seasons had washed over Portland, bringing vibrant springs, warm summers, and now the crisp, golden hues of autumn. Eleanor's new routine had solidified, providing a gentle rhythm to her days. She frequented local coffee shops, their air thick with the scent of roasted beans and quiet conversation. She had tentatively joined a book club, finding solace in shared stories and cautious new friendships. She volunteered at a community garden, her hands finding comfort in the familiar rhythm of digging in the soil, nurturing new life. The sharp, agonizing edges of grief had softened, not disappeared, but dulled into a persistent, manageable ache, like an old, familiar scar. She felt a cautious, fragile sense of peace, a quiet acceptance of her new, solitary existence. One unusually warm autumn afternoon, the kind that whispers of Indian summer, Eleanor was meticulously pruning overgrown roses in her front garden, their thorns a welcome, tangible resistance against the lingering sadness. The air was thick with the scent of damp earth and late-blooming flowers. A sudden, almost imperceptible flash of movement at the very edge of her peripheral vision made her pause, her shears poised in mid-air. A small, emaciated figure was slowly, painfully making its way up her winding garden path, her heart, already tender from a year of quiet introspection, gave a sudden, violent lurch, a painful beat against her ribs. It was a cat, a tabby. Her eyes, usually clear and sharp, misted over, blurring the world into a hazy, impossible dream. No, it couldn't be. It was impossible. Des Moines was over 1,700 miles away, a lifetime of distance and geographical impossibility. The cat was terribly thin, its fur matted with burrs and dirt, its movements slow and deliberate, as if every single step was an immense, agonizing effort. It collapsed weakly on her welcome mat, a ragged bundle of fur and bone, barely a breath of life within it. Eleanor dropped her pruning shears with a clatter that echoed in the sudden, profound silence. As she rushed forward, her breath caught in her throat, a choked gasp of disbelief. The cat lifted its head, its eyes. Though clouded with exhaustion and the milky film of age, were unmistakable. One ear, slightly torn from an old, forgotten fight. A distinctive dark stripe running down its spine. The familiar, comforting pattern. And then, as Eleanor knelt down, her hands outstretched, the faint, almost imperceptible purr that vibrated deep within its frail, trembling body, a sound she hadn't heard in over a year, a sound that resonated deep within her soul. Lily? The word was a choked whisper, barely audible. Disbelief battling with a surge of overwhelming, earth-shattering emotion. Oh, Lily, my sweet girl, is that really you? Lily impossibly had found her. The old cat, whose world had once been contained within the four walls of their Des Moines home, had crossed a continent, defying all logic, all reason, all known boundaries of feline endurance. But as Eleanor gently gathered the trembling, feather-light body into her arms, the familiar weight of her beloved pet, a heartbreaking contrast to her emaciated state, she noticed something else, something small and huddled close to Lily's side, almost hidden by her matted, dirty fur. A tiny, timid face peered out from beneath Lily's chin. A kitten, small, no more than a few months old, its eyes wide with bright, curious wonder. A miniature version of Lily's distinctive tabby markings, and then another one and another. 3 tiny, fragile kittens, nestled against their mother, silent, watchful witnesses to an impossible journey, a testament to an unimaginable love. Eleanor sank onto her porch swing, the old wood groaning softly under the sudden weight, cradling Lily and her improbable, miraculous brood. Her mind reeled, struggling to comprehend the impossible. This wasn't just a miracle. It was an epic, a saga of unwavering loyalty, of unimaginable endurance, a living legend unfolding on her very own doorstep. How had Lily traveled all that way, over 1,700 miles, and with kittens? The questions swirled, demanding answers she couldn't comprehend, could barely even articulate. Lily, exhausted but purring weakly, a ragged, rhythmic vibration against Eleanor's chest, simply pressed her head against Eleanor's arm, as if to say, "I'm home, Eleanor. We're home. The journey is over." The day Eleanor said goodbye to Lily in Des Moines felt like an act of betrayal, a profound abandonment she would carry with her for a long, long time. Thomas had been gone for only 3 months, and the house, once a bustling hub of family life, filled with laughter and the gentle hum of their shared existence, now felt hollow, echoing with his absence. Every room, every object was a painful reminder. Eleanor felt utterly adrift, unable to fathom life without him, unable to breathe in the suffocating memories of their shared past. Her children, concerned by her deepening grief and increasing isolation, had coordinated the move. Sarah, her daughter in Portland, had found the bungalow, a charming, manageable space with a garden she knew Eleanor, a lifelong gardener, would eventually come to love. But leaving Lily, that was the hardest part, a decision that felt like tearing a piece of her own soul away. Mrs. Henderson, their next-door neighbor for 30 years, a kind, elderly woman with a perpetually gentle smile and a renowned way with animals, had volunteered without hesitation. "Don't you worry, dear," she'd said, her voice soft and reassuring, stroking Lily's soft fur, her hand a familiar comfort. "She'll be spoiled rotten here. Lots of sunbeams and naps, all the tuna she can eat." Eleanor had hugged Lily tightly, a desperate final embrace, burying her face in the warm, familiar fur, inhaling the comforting scent of her old friend one last time. Lily had simply blinked her large emerald eyes, seemingly oblivious to the seismic shift occurring in Eleanor's life, perhaps sensing the turmoil but unable to comprehend the imminent separation. Eleanor had driven away, not daring to look back. The lump in her throat a painful, aching knot, a tear blurring her vision, reflecting the gnawing guilt that burrowed deep into her heart, a bitter pill she swallowed every day in the unfamiliar streets of Portland. She prayed Lily wouldn't feel abandoned, that she would understand. Mrs. Henderson, true to her word, had doted on Lily. She provided the best quality food, the softest blankets, a sunny windowsill for her naps, exactly as promised. But Lily, usually content with her simple routine, seemed restless, almost agitated. She'd wander the house, meowing mournfully, a low, sorrowful sound, peering into empty rooms, sniffing at the spots where Eleanor's favorite armchair used to sit, where Thomas's worn slippers always lay beside the fireplace. She'd sit by the front door for hours, staring out, her ears twitching at every passing car, every distant sound, as if waiting for a familiar engine, a familiar figure to walk up the path. Mrs. Henderson, a lifelong cat owner, had assumed it was just the adjustment, the loss of her usual routine, the confusion of a new environment. She attributed it to Lily's age, her declining health. Then, one crisp autumn morning, just a few weeks after Eleanor had left Des Moines, Mrs. Henderson opened her bath door to let Lily out for her usual potter in the sunny garden. Lily walked out, sniffed the cool, crisp air, And then, with a strange, determined look in her emerald eyes, a look of profound purpose, she simply kept walking. She went past the familiar rose bushes, past the worn picket fence, and down the alley, disappearing from Mrs. Henderson's sight as if drawn by an invisible thread. Mrs. Henderson called, searched for hours, put up dozens of lost cat posters with Lily's sweet face plastered on them. But Lily was gone. She was heartbroken, convinced the old cat had wandered off to find a quiet, secluded place to pass away, a common, heartbreaking occurrence with elderly pets. She felt terrible for Eleanor. The thought of adding more grief to her daughter's already fragile state was unbearable, and so she decided not to tell her, not yet, wanting to spare her further sorrow during her difficult transition. She would wait until Eleanor was more settled, then gently break the news of Lily's quiet departure. Meanwhile, Lily, driven by an instinct far older and more powerful than any domestic comfort, any learned routine, had begun her impossible journey. It wasn't a conscious plan, not in the intricate, logical human sense. It was a primal, unwavering drive to find her person. Eleanor's scent, though faint, lingered in the fabric of the world, carried on the wind, etched in the dust motes, a distant beacon calling her home. Lily followed it, one agonizing, determined step at a time, her arthritic joints protesting with every movement. Her journey was a brutal, relentless testament to sheer animal will, a desperate pilgrimage across a vast, indifferent land. She moved mostly at night, a shadow among shadows, her small body vulnerable to the dangers of speeding cars, snarling dogs, and indifferent strangers. She survived on scraps from overflowing garbage bins, on the occasional mouse or bird she was lucky enough to catch. Her hunting instincts, dulled by years of comfortable domesticity, sharpened by desperation. She found precarious shelter in abandoned sheds, under dense bushes, in the hollows of ancient trees, her frail body growing thinner with each passing day, her once pristine fur matted with burrs, dirt, and the dust of countless miles. She faced snarling dogs, whose barks echoed terrifyingly in the darkness, indifferent humans who saw only a dirty stray. The relentless, biting cold of early winter, the burning, dehydrating heat of early summer, her arthritis, a minor ache in the comfortable confines of Des Moines, became a constant, debilitating pain that racked her weary body. She had to push through it all, fueled by an unseen force, a magnetic pull towards the familiar. Along the way, somewhere in the vast, unforgiving expanse of Nebraska, or the endless plains of Wyoming, a new urgency had taken hold of Lily, a tiny, swelling warmth in her belly. She was pregnant, a profound, instinctual shift in her focus. Now, she wasn't just searching for Eleanor. She was carrying life, a precious cargo that made every step heavier, every hunger pang sharper, every danger more terrifying. Her journey was no longer just her own. She found a secluded, overgrown culvert near a train track in the vast plains, a surprisingly safe haven, hidden from the elements and prying eyes. There, under the damp, comforting shelter of dense weeds and tangled vines, she gave birth. 3 tiny, helpless bundles of fur, no bigger than her paw. 2 tabbies, just like her, and one with a distinctive black spot on its nose, a tiny, adorable mark. She licked them clean, purred ceaselessly, a low, rumbling vibration of profound love and fierce protection, her emaciated body shivering with the immense effort of childbirth. For weeks, she nursed them, her own strength waning rapidly, but her maternal instinct roaring, a powerful protective force. She hunted for herself and for them, leaving them briefly, always returning to her vulnerable brood, bringing back whatever meager sustenance she could find. When the kittens were strong enough to totter, their tiny legs unsteady, their eyes wide with wonder at the vast, terrifying world, Lily knew she had to keep moving. She couldn't leave them. Her journey now had a new, terrifying, and immensely precious dimension. She taught them to follow her, to hide at her command, to stalk beetles and grasshoppers, tiny lessons in survival. They traveled slowly, painstakingly, their pace dictated by the fragile, hesitant steps of her offspring. The kittens often rode on Lily's back or clung to her neck, their tiny claws digging in as she painstakingly navigated dangerous stretches of road, across fields and through dense undergrowth. They hid from loud noises, from looming shadows, from every perceived threat. Their small bodies pressing against their mother's gaunt frame. Lily, even more gaunt and weary now, never wavered, her internal compass pointing ever westward. Her true north was Eleanor, and now it irrevocably included her precious children. She followed the faint, underlying scent of humanity, the distant hum of civilization, instinctively understanding that her human, Eleanor, was within that orbit, that her destination lay within that sphere of influence. She followed roads, the cold, hard surface of train tracks, sometimes even the faint path of interstate highways, a minuscule, determined speck against the vastness of the American West, a tiny, living miracle inching its way home. It was a journey of nearly a year, a testament to an unbreakable bond, a powerful, primal connection that defied all logic and scientific explanation. Eleanor, after the initial profound shock, moved with a decisive, almost frantic energy. She brought Lily and her kittens inside her new bungalow, her once quiet, meticulously organized sanctuary. A place of silent introspection was suddenly filled with the soft, almost miraculous meows of the kittens, the comforting, rhythmic purr of Lily, and the overwhelming scent of a miracle. She set up a makeshift bed in a sunny corner of her living room, filled bowls with fresh water and the best quality wet food she could find at the local pet store. Lily, after devouring a surprisingly large amount of food with a ferocity Eleanor had never seen, collapsed into a deep, exhausted sleep. Her kittens nestled against her, purring like tiny engines, their small bodies rising and falling with her gentle breaths. Eleanor spent the next few days in a daze of wonder and frantic activity. She carefully gathered Lily and the kittens into a carrier and took them straight to the vet. Dr. Miller, a kind, pragmatic woman with years of experience, was utterly astonished by Lily's story. "Mrs. Vance, this is extraordinary," she said, her voice filled with professional awe, as she meticulously examined Lily's calloused paws, her scarred ears, the deep fatigue etched into her frail body. Her body shows undeniable signs of extreme malnutrition, profound dehydration, and incredible physical stress. The fact that she not only survived such an arduous journey, but also managed to give birth and nurse 3 healthy, robust kittens through it all, It's truly remarkable, a testament to pure, unadulterated will, an instinctual drive rarely seen. The kittens, despite their mother's ordeal, were surprisingly healthy, a testament to Lily's fierce maternal care. Eleanor spent hours simply watching Lily and her kittens, her heart overflowing with a love she hadn't realized she had so much of. The kittens, once timid and wary, quickly blossomed under her gentle care, their playful antics bringing a lightness and joyous chaos to Eleanor's home she hadn't realized was missing. A vibrant contrast to the quiet grief that had dominated her life. One, a fluffy tabby with the same intense green eyes and curious gaze as Lily, was named Journey in honor of her epic pilgrimage. Another, the one with the distinctive black spot on his nose, a curious adventurer who immediately explored every corner of the house, was aptly named Odyssey. And the third, a quiet, gentle female who preferred to curl up close to Eleanor, was named Hope, a symbol of the renewed purpose Lily had brought into her life. The overwhelming joy of Lily's impossible return was, for a few days, tempered by a lingering question, a thread of concern. What about Mrs. Henderson? Eleanor finally gathered her courage, her hand trembling slightly as she dialed her old neighbor's number in Des Moines. Mrs. Henderson's voice, when she answered, was frail with age, but filled with a sudden, profound disbelief. "Eleanor, my dear, you won't believe this. Dear, but just a few weeks after you left, Lily, she just vanished. I searched everywhere. I put up posters. I asked everyone. I was so heartbroken, so convinced she'd simply wandered off to pass away. I didn't want to tell you, not with all you were going through, losing Thomas and moving." Eleanor listened, tears streaming silently down her face, a mix of relief and profound sorrow. "Mrs. Henderson," she choked out, her voice thick with emotion. "She's here. Lily is here, in Portland. She found me. She walked all the way across the country, and she brought 3 kittens." A long, stunned silence on the other end of the line, broken only by the soft click of the telephone connection. Then a shaky gasp, a sound of pure wonder. "Oh, my dear, a miracle, truly a miracle. That sweet cat, she always loved you so." Mrs. Henderson's voice was filled with a mix of tearful joy and astonishment, sharing in Eleanor's impossible wonder. The news of Lily's impossible journey, of her unwavering devotion, spread like wildfire through Eleanor's small, new community in Portland. Neighbors brought gifts for the kittens, tiny collars, toys, bags of specialty food, offering help and support, drawn by the profound, heartwarming nature of the story. Eleanor, usually a private, somewhat reserved person, found herself sharing Lily's incredible tale again and again, each retelling reinforcing the profoundness of the event, the sheer audacity of Lily's love. It sparked a new sense of connection for her, a bond with her new community through the shared wonder of Lily's incredible odyssey. People would stop her in the grocery store, asking after Lily and her kittens, their faces alight with the same shared sense of awe. One evening, weeks after Lily's momentous return, Eleanor sat on her familiar porch swing, the wood creaking softly under her weight, a sound that now brought her comfort instead of loneliness. Lily, purring contentedly, a picture of ultimate peace, lay stretched out on her lap, a warm, furry blanket. Journey and Odyssey wrestled playfully at her feet, their youthful energy boundless, their tiny growls punctuated by joyful pounces. Hope, the quietest of the three, curled up asleep beside them, a small, trusting bundle of fur. The sun dipped below the horizon, painting the sky in soft hues of orange and pink, mirroring the peaceful warmth that filled Eleanor's heart. Eleanor felt a profound sense of peace, deeper and more complete than any she had known since Thomas passed away. She realized then that Lily's journey wasn't just about finding her human. It was about Eleanor finding herself again. In the depths of her grief, in the immense upheaval of her move, Eleanor had felt untethered, lost, like a ship without a rudder. Lily, against all odds, against all logic, had followed an unseen thread of loyalty and love, not just for herself, but for her new, vulnerable family. Lily had shown Eleanor that even when you leave everything behind, even when life strips you bare, the most important connections, the deepest bonds, transcend distance and time. Lily's fierce resilience, her unwavering determination, her instinct to carry on and protect her young, had inadvertently become a living metaphor for Eleanor's own journey through grief, through loneliness, and through the slow, painstaking process of adjustment to a new life. Eleanor found herself sketching again, not art history notes, but Lily and her kittens, capturing their warmth, their playful energy, the quiet strength, and unwavering love in Lily's emerald eyes. She started painting again, abstract works bursting with color, inspired by the impossible journey, by the boundless love of a cat who had traveled across a continent just to be home. She joined a local art group, tentatively at first, then with growing confidence, sharing her work, something she never would have dared to do before, too afraid of judgment, too timid to expose her inner world. Lily's return had ignited a spark of bravery in her own heart. Lily lived for another 2 happy, contented years, showered with love and comfort, her days filled with sunbeams, delicious food, and the constant purr of her devoted human. She watched her kittens grow into mischievous, healthy cats, teaching them to chase sunbeams across the floor, to stalk butterflies in the vibrant garden, and most importantly, to purr with absolute, unadulterated contentment, a sound that now filled Eleanor's home with joy. Journey, Odyssey, and hope remained with Eleanor, a constant living legacy of their mother's impossible feat, a daily, tangible reminder of the enduring power of love and perseverance, a furry testament to the miracles that can unfold on your own doorstep. Eleanor Vance, at 70, looked at her life. The pain of Thomas's loss was still there, a soft, familiar ache. But it was now woven into a richer, more vibrant tapestry, illuminated by the profound, undeniable miracle of Lily. She had left everything behind, yes, but something truly extraordinary, something born of fierce loyalty and boundless love had followed her. Her old cat, her faithful companion, had returned, bringing not just herself, but a new family, a renewed sense of purpose, and an undeniable living testament to the unbreakable bonds that truly define us. Lily's journey wasn't just a physical one across miles. It was a journey of the heart, reminding Eleanor that even when you feel utterly lost, even when you believe all hope is gone, love will always find its way home.